Moss Media.
Welcome to Anything But Cliché, a place for real talk about age gaps, culture clashes, and all the things people whisper about but rarely discuss out loud.
Yeah, we're kind of defining a relationship on our own terms.
I would say unconventional relationship.
In every sense of the term. So many dynamics that come into our relationship. Our races, our age. You're like basically on Social Security.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, I love you.
Here are your hosts, Clifton and Shay.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Anything But Cliché. I'm, as always, joined by my wonderful co-host,
Shay.
And I'm Clifton. Together, we are Cliché. All right, so what are we going to get into today?
Religion.
Oof.
Another
one of the things you're not
topic.
supposed to talk about with, like, you know, friends and lovers, right?
I know.
At least not on a first date. Do you consider yourself religious?
No, I consider myself spiritual.
Spiritual, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that differ in your eyes from religion?
I feel like I'm not like Christian or Catholic
Okay, so
or
not
anything.
organized religion.
Yeah, but I do believe that there's a higher power out there. I don't necessarily know. I have so many questions about the Bible, basically. But I just believe in aligning myself with just, you know, wanting to be a better person and waking up every day and like
Sure.
believing in signs and like I have my crystals.
Okay.
Like, you know, like I manifest and stuff like that. But in terms of like an organized religion, God, the Bible, not necessarily the fondest on it, but I don't like look down or do anything with other people. I mean, I come from a super religious family.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was raised religious, but you know, I think that my parents did that not because it was like a strong belief for them, but instead to instill you know, the
Discipline.
morals and that sort of thing, that it can be difficult to teach kids when you're young or when, you know, when they're young. But, you know, we have another guest joining us today, back again from a previous episode. We have Mr. Daniel P. Nicholson in the house.
Back at it again with the white man.
I wanted to say, I wish you could maybe call me Reverend or Rabbi.
Yeah, well, I believe those titles are earned.
I think they're definitely earned.
Okay, Rabbi Nicholson.
Yeah, scars of living life.
Yeah.
I've lost a few of these titles.
Yeah. You were stripped
what if
of
I was a
your
priest?
rabbi title.
Yeah, I was stripped of it. I wanted to be a priest, but then the whole wanting to have sex thing threw me off.
Well, they
yes.
still do it. We just find out a couple decades later about what they were doing in the church, which is why I'm like,
oh, I wasn't going to go there, but
yeah.
What's a less evil? Let's say having relations with I'm basically saying, you know, there's stereotypes in many different religions, but for some reason in the Catholic Church they have theirs, but then the Mormons having, say, multiple wives.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure which one's ultimately worse, like forcing young girls that are like young, very young to have kids. All of that seems to be a little bit much. I don't know if the higher power.
I mean,
God wants
I don't know that we need to say which one's worse. I think we can all agree that
we can't have a pecking order.
they all have their own, like things that I mean are just
cringy,
horrible. But it's just so funny because they're preaching to us to live like this best life, and I'm like, but you are doing X, Y, and Z. I'm like, I'm just like smoking weed, and apparently I'm a bad person. You guys are doing the most.
You smoke weed?
Are we allowed to do that?
Oh my goodness. So what? I'm curious. How many or what percentage of the global population do you think identifies as religious? Daniel?
Ooh. I mean, Islam's a big population. I'm going to go with a strong 70%.
Okay. All right. And Miss Shay, what do you think?
I was going to say 80.
Wow. You guys are both very, very close. 85%.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who's got the higher number without going over? Shay, well played.
Yeah.
I never win anything.
Now let's switch it up and let's talk about just the U.S.
Ooh,
Same question.
Numbers drop. They got it, right?
I don't know, because again, what Clifton was saying, I honestly feel like growing up, me being religious wasn't like my dad was just like, you need to go to church. Ask me how many times he went to church with us.
I'm going to go with 4.
I mean, maybe holidays if we were lucky, if he wasn't working. My mom, I do honestly feel like it, but I also feel like that's how she grew up. And she was just like, that's how I grew up. I'm going to deal with my kids. So I feel like with a lot of people, I'd say maybe 75.
Okay, so just slightly lower than your 80 guess.
Because we're talking about the whole population.
We're just talking about U.S. population.
Well, yeah, but that's what I mean. I'm like, if you have a family and kids, you're sending them to church.
I think many people lie, and they. I think I'm going to go with 55%.
Daniel is much closer on this one. Yeah, 45%.
45.
It drops basically in half, but less
love
than
that
half.
for America.
Right.
Make your own decision.
33%, though, identify as spiritual, just like you.
33. Yeah. That seems more of a realistic. I'm surprised that number's not higher. I mean, Shay, we've lived a life here. I think spirituals would be a much, much higher number.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Dan, what was your experience coming up with the church?
Well, it all started when I was baptized at the
tender age of 2 months.
Let me tell you about it. I remember it.
Yeah. That water was cold.
The chlorine's still going up my nose.
I cried. I cried a lot.
That's another one, right? We subject these little infants who don't know anything from anything. I was very, very fortunate with religion. We were in a sad way making a joke about people saying one thing, doing another. So that could be Boy Scouts or it's amazing how people mistreat other humans. But I got lucky. A neighbor of ours moved into our court where we lived growing up, and it ended up they had a youth group. So this youth group started for me around the age of 12. So it just gave me an opportunity to escape school and be with a different set of kids that actually came from other neighborhoods. So you got to see other kids, and everyone was on their best behavior. So I had a really positive, and the youth leader was a super stud. It was a man, and he happened to do what he said. So that was really encouraging. Yeah. And what's your guys' path? So I'd say 12 for me is when I first, quote unquote, went to church.
That's when you were first touched by Jesus.
Yeah, I was actually,
felt the Holy Spirit.
when I was younger, my parents would go to church on holidays.
Yeah, sure.
But that was more of kind of I didn't understand really what was going on. But by the age of 12, you kind of have a little bit more awareness, not a lot, but something.
Okay.
What age? So you're going as a little girl too?
I had to. I literally, my mom didn't bring me out of the house until I got christened. Because in the Caribbean, a christening.
Christened.
A christening.
How are we saying? Right? We're saying it wrong.
I think it's
christening.
Christening. Christening, like blessed, you're saying? Your mom did when she lived till you were blessed.
In the Caribbean culture, which I don't know if it's Caribbean or
maybe it's a soft J. It's just yogging.
A lot of black people.
That's well played.
But you can't take technically, how they think, you're not allowed to take your baby out of the house until they have this blessing.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And then I had a baptism. And then I wasn't raised Catholic. I was raised Methodist Christian.
Okay.
But I had to.
When did the voodoo come in?
That's very funny.
Right now.
Yeah.
It's about to hit.
Where's my doll and my pin?
I know that you're Haitian, Jamaican, Dominican, right? So
I know, but that's a common. Well, okay. I do have. My family was very mixed. So half of us grew up Christian, half of us grew up Catholic, which people don't think is that much different, but it really much is. Me and my sisters were the only ones that went to public school. All my cousins went to, besides actually maybe 3 of them, private Catholic schools. But yeah, it was always just it was kind of like a chore. Every Sunday I knew I was going to church, and it wasn't until I was in 8th grade and I got my confirmation that my parents also wanted me to work and get a job. But they were like, oh, and I started doing sports, and that would go us into Sunday. But they were like, it's your choice now. After I got that, what is it called again? Confirmed. They didn't see my ass again.
You're done.
I was just I don't know what I'm getting from this. And it's so extra. Everyone in here is being extra. I remember when I used to go to my uncle's church. This woman would catch the Holy Ghost every Sunday. And I'm like, why is God finding you and not me every Sunday?
Would she speak in tongues?
Tongues. She'd be fainting. The ushers are coming. It would. It's we would count down the minutes.
Did you?
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to go to a Southern Baptist proceeding. I don't know, what do they call it? A service? And yeah, they get down. Like
the
that
music's great,
that
but
was
I'm like
fun.
the extra stuff. I'm like,
But yeah, when people are out there like feeling it all, it's like, okay, come on. It's kind of like
on the floor. And
it's
I'm
like
oh my
it's
God,
same thing when you're on a Ouija board. You know, somebody's driving this bus. You know what I mean?
So you prefer mass? I mean,
well, at least they feed you,
right? It's
Oh my God, I used to love. Okay, my favorite thing about church was coffee hour. Especially when I knew my mom was the one that was like, it was like her Sunday. I'm like, oh my God, we're going to have good food. And it was my only time as a child allowed to have coffee. So I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait for coffee hour.
you ever partake of that wafer and the red wine?
So,
oh, yeah.
Okay, could I tell you a funny story about that? I had never done it before, right? And I don't know what I was thinking or what. So I get up there and I saw people just putting like the wafer on the tongue.
Uh-huh.
For some reason, I thought you were just supposed to swallow it. Like,
Jesus.
And I'm just up there like, you know, like just the thing is stuck in my throat. And I don't know. It's like, this is the bread of God. So I'm not.
Did the pastor put his hands on
I think it would be, you know, discourteous to chew on
you wanted to just swallow.
Yeah.
That's very funny in other ways.
Yeah.
This is.
Well, I'm not a spitter. I mean, come on.
Christ's body.
I do have some respect.
You do a little bit. Christ's body is broken for you. And then did they have wine or grapefruit juice, like a cranberry?
Christian church, my church would do. I also went to like church in Spring Valley, which had a very big Caribbean community. I don't know if you know what hardo bread is, but it's like a Jamaican bread. They would literally give us a piece of hardo bread and dip it in the grape juice.
Or whatever. Okay.
And then, but when I would go to my family's church, you know, with my other side of the family be Catholic, they would give the wafers and the wine, and I would try to like sip.
She tried to catch a buzz off the wine. It's like, hit me.
I sit in this line
Make
for
it a
so
double.
long.
Shay goes back to the back of the line. She's like, loops around like 3 times.
I need to be Christian a few times.
I always found it interesting going to different churches where you see the styles, the presentation styles. For example, do you raise your hands? Do you clap?
Do you stand up?
Oh, the stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down.
Like,
yeah.
Are we speaking in tongues?
Mm-hmm.
Does the pastor or reverend dab themselves with a towel?
Yeah.
Are they like sweating like a Jesus, you know, and they're doing this whole deal? And I always found it funny. Or offering. This is the one I found.
Oh, yeah.
At the
I'm like, miss me with that basket.
Well, so I'm going to a church once where the offering plate would be passed down. Right? Okay, they pass it down the aisle. Sounds innocent
so
enough.
Everyone has to see.
No, but they're judgment.
They can't tell if you're dumping it. You just could fake it, right? You're like, oh, okay.
Oh.
You know, so at a different church I went to, and they have everyone come to the front in a line.
I'm screaming.
There's someone holding a basket up front, so everyone's required to go to the front.
Shut up.
Now you've got to. Now you start seeing people panic, like, hey, you got a $5, you got a $10, you got
$1,
I got to put
quarter?
anything. Don't go empty-handed.
Well, what are they doing nowadays when people don't have cash?
No. So I went to church here in San Diego. I could not, because it was my first time in church since college.
And everyone knows Shay does not carry cash.
Do we want to?
They had a scanning thing.
Oh, so you
like a Venmo or Cash App or what?
I could not believe it.
They had a QR code.
I had to take a picture and I sent it to my grandma. I'm like, oh my God. Like, yeah, no excuses.
Well, okay, if we're talking religious and money, what's going on with all that?
You're supposed to give 10%.
Okay.
Tithing, right?
Tithing.
And it's 10% off the top. That's gross, not net.
Okay. So let's
and these pastors are driving Rolls Royces.
Well, some are.
Yeah.
I gotta, here's a shameless plug for that Joel Osteen guy that's got that mega
church.
church.
My God.
And at some point, I remember as kids, we were growing up on TV, they'd have, touch the TV, get Jesus.
Oh, really?
Send money and we'll give you holy water. It's some
Yeah, it'll save you. You can't walk. Get this holy water. Your legs will be working tomorrow. I'm like, what
and it's something you just kind of look at and like, where is that stuff going?
Yeah. Yeah.
It goes right to them, and there's no accounting for them. And I also found out growing up that if you're a pastor and you basically live within a certain amount of distance of the church, your house is free.
Interesting.
Because it's technically a religious property, so you don't have to pay taxes. And I grew up around a lot of Hasidics too.
They need to close that loophole. Like all these churches need to be paying taxes. They really do.
I mean, if you're giving back to the community and helping, which is how I viewed the church. So for me, growing up, you saw Mother Teresa, who you got to think, wow, what a noble, any person who gives back to other people or lives a very modest lifestyle is the person at least I want to follow. But how many religions can one be exposed to in their journey on the planet?
That's interesting you say that. You may recall a friend of ours from high school, Jessica Labresco. She had a Christian parent and a Jewish parent. And so they let the kids, they exposed them to both. And then they exposed them to other religions. They took them to a Buddhist celebration or religious, experience, and then Hindu, and they tried to give them as much exposure as they could, and then say, hey, you know what? Why don't you guys choose what speaks to you, what sounds the best, So I think that's pretty cool. But to your point, I think most kids are just shoved, whatever religion their parents are, that's shoved down their throat, and that's the religion that they are.
It's
right?
what you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just...
And I think that most religions are, the tenets of the religion are basically designed to, repopulate the earth with their people, right?
Yeah.
For example, most religions are frown upon birth control. And it's not because they want you to be safe and this and that and all that stuff. It's because they want you to reproduce and to basically grow their constituency, right? They want they want more parishioners. They want more people kicking money into that kitty, that offering that Venmo QR code. That's all that they want. It's the same thing with, the U.S. government. They want to teach abstinence because they know nobody's going to do it. And then at the end of the day, all they want is more people paying into the system, right? They want to grow the tax base.
It's kind of like when Mormons go on missions.
Yeah.
For those 2 years.
How so?
To convert people?
Well, so basically, they're, instead of going to college, a lot of them, when they graduate high school.
Right. They're still trying to grow the base of the religion. Right?
It's called serving for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I do kind of like about it is it teaches them, you need to get up and work every day. Doesn't matter. We're going to send you somewhere. You don't have a choice. You committed to this mission. You can go anywhere from staying in the U.S. to going to Italy, to going to Africa. And your main thing is you're waking up 6 days a week. And, well, I don't know if it's 6 days, so let's fact check that. But you're waking up basically at least 5 days a week, and rain, too hot, doesn't matter. You're sick, doesn't matter. You need to wake up and door knock on people's doors and try to, I don't like saying recruit, but influence, or
right. What do they call it when there's a term for
witnessing?
It. Witness, yeah.
Yeah. Can I get a witness?
Yeah, oh my God. Can I get
Amen.
a witness?
I mean, I did a journey once where we went on missions trips. Yeah, I did 2 trips to Fiji.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But what's kind of goofy is Fiji,
how many conversions did you get?
0. It was already...
I would go.
You didn't get at the end of the trip, you converted 7 savages over to,
Come on.
I mean,
well, they're Polynesian type people.
But that's what I mean. But the whole reason that missionaries go there is because they think that they need to push their, beliefs on these people who don't have that, who don't share that belief, right? Yeah. And so somehow they are worse as a person, right? That just seems like nonsense.
Or well, I mean, in certain religions, if until all have been given an opportunity to believe, we're waiting on the
that's
second
right.
coming up or whatever.
And I'm not educated in all religions, so I don't know. Perhaps Judaism's different, perhaps Islam's different, perhaps. But I know in my experience, it was really interesting to see most people are accepting politely to listen to you for a few moments and then either say thank you or no thank you.
You can't turn away Jesus.
You can't. How dare you?
Do you guys used to have, so in New York is very popular, Jehovah's Witness. They would knock on your door. And my dad used to be like, we're not home.
Call them J-Hos.
Could we say
They would love that.
Can we give a plug? JW.org is their website.
Is it?
It is. And they come to as well in our neighborhood. Well, what's worse, someone coming to you religiously or someone knocking on that metal gate? Because it really triggers me. I hear someone bang on my metal gate.
You're right.
Oh, you mean like the storm door or whatever?
The storm door.
Do
Yeah.
you not have a doorbell?
We do actually, but they don't hit it.
They want to get right to the source.
Yeah, exactly. And then the dog starts barking. I'm like, hey, now's not a good time. I love you, or
just in case your doorbell is woken, you didn't miss the coming of Christ.
Yeah. And by the way, your people came yesterday.
Right.
Can you stop canvassing the same door?
I gave it the office.
But is there not beauty in religion as far as some type of a structure?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it doesn't have to be religion, but since we're talking about religion, the fact of being good to others or yourself.
But do you need a religion to tell you to be a good person?
But some people do. Like that's where they kind of find. I think, like for instance, like my grandma.
We got the anti-religion guy over here,
right? I'm like, I feel like some people, it's, and that's why, like, I'm very just accepting of what every, one in my life wants to accept, is because I feel like the foundation of it is they want to be a good person, they want to do good unto others, and they just feel like following this word or going to church helps them achieve that, but their actions are showing that that's generally what they want to do. I feel like they just look at it as guidance.
That's fair, but I think that religion originated to answer questions that we couldn't answer, right? For example, going, way back, why do ships, as they sail off into the horizon, why do they disappear or whatever? Why do people die young and some people, live forever? Not forever, but for a long time. Why does the sun come up and go down? Why does it rain sometimes? What's thunder and lightning? And people didn't know the answers to these questions, right? And so they, the blanket statement became, it's God's will, right? And so there's still one question that cannot be answered. Well, I guess there's a couple. Some people will say that one question is, where do we come from, right? Some feel that question's been answered. But then the real question that keeps religion alive is what happens when we die, right? If science ever answered that question, I don't believe there would be religion anymore.
What do you guys think? What happens when we breathe our final breath?
Oh, the curtain just falls. Boom. That's it.
I think it's
fade
either
to black,
that or we get reincarnated as something else. And I hope to be reincarnated as a rock.
What about you?
My grandpa had a funny line. He'd say, I want to be reincarnated as a seagull so I can go back and shit on people. Jeez. That's pretty aggressive.
That aligns with the family of yours that I know.
Definitely. I come from that man.
Yeah.
It's a great question. I have no idea what happens when we die. I guess this is part of the faith, part of different faiths where, do you come back reincarnated? Do you just die? Do you come back as something else?
Or do you go to heaven?
Do you go to heaven and have a bunch of concubines? I don't know. Nobody really knows.
What is it? 37 virgins, right? Isn't that one of the...
Do you really want that? That sounds to me like 37 problems.
Yeah,
it sounds like hell. It sounds like you didn't make it to the pearly
None of them are going to know how to do the things that I like,
That's true. Maybe they've been alerted ahead of time. By St. Peter up there carries a little black book. He knows what's going down. So then what are we supposed to do on this planet while we're here right now? Is this just kind of temporary, or is this the final?
Now we're getting into the meaning of life, right?
Oh, okay.
Why are we here?
It's just temporary.
Why are we here, Shay?
I honestly feel why I'm here is to live my best life on my own means.
Okay.
Fail, not be scared of failure. Actually embrace it, because I feel like that's what helps me get up and just find something else and push forward. But I honestly feel like it's up to everyone's own interpretation. I think people think too much about it and think, because God or what we're taught, it's supposed to be different. I honestly think we were all put on this earth to live life on our own terms, whatever that means.
I'm along those lines. I feel like we're just here to have a good time.
Yeah, be happy.
Do whatever you can do to enjoy yourself in the really short time that we have. What about you, Dan? What do you think?
Well, I got to put a little spin on that, because...
Hit me with that curveball.
Well, I mean, I'm very thankful. I usually phrase it this way. I'm thankful I have a blue passport, which is, in this particular case, United States passport. We can travel almost anywhere on the planet. It's one planet with many different types of ideas and thoughts and lifestyles, but yet there's a group of people that are just born where you're not going to be able to travel. You're not going to be able to leave. Maybe you're living in a war zone. Maybe you're poverty. One time I visited a country that was a little bit questionable, and the guy said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I just wanted to see the world." And he goes, "I would never come here if I were you. Go, there's other places."
Sad.
It was a bit sad in a way, but the man understood the reality of it. And then of course it's just another life lesson where maybe we're born into this life where we could sit, relax right now, and other people can't. I find that very confusing, and dare I say, I should be thankful.
Yeah, there's a lot of inequity in the world, right?
Complete inequity. And what is it? You just where you're born?
Yeah.
That's how.
Or decisions
it's like that
your parents make. I feel like, I always think, because my parents grew up in third world countries, I'm like, the fact that you guys were teenagers and came here and you didn't even know English, and just to see where they are now, I'm like, you could have picked any, why, especially in the Caribbean, a lot of them either go to London or the US. And it's just so crazy to be that one decision that was made either for you, because obviously they were teenagers, they didn't decide to come here, or that you made for yourself would just change the whole trajectory of your life. I could have had a whole different life. So that's why I say I'm spiritual, because I feel blessed.
There's an old song from Pearl Jam, and I'm gonna paraphrase the lyric because I don't know it exactly, but it says something to the effect of, he won the lottery when he was born, straight white male American such and such, right? I mean, that's us, right? We
must be nice.
We won the lottery being born males in America. The path is
Don't forget the white part.
The path is easier. Well, that's implied.
I don't see color. And I do want to throw one monkey in that little wrench is that may we not pull up the ladder for those
or close the gate behind us.
Or close the gate. And that's
right?
that. I mean, look at the world now. Now's a tightening of immigration and other people. It's hey, it's one planet. We all share the planet. Bob Marley said it's one love, but it's one planet that it's not my planet. It's not your planet. It's for all of us to have to find a way to share it amongst each other. I
think ultimately, religion, if it helps you get through the day, it's probably a net positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But for some people, I think it hangs over them, and it maybe doesn't provide any positive, right? For example, if you're in Palestine right now, Israel and Palestine, that whole thing going down, and they had a ceasefire for a couple months, and now that it's back on again, and it's just so sad because at the end of the day, they're fighting over Holy Land, right? And it just seems so arbitrary. Why don't you just decide, what, our Holy Land is somewhere else? Right. And maybe it's naive of me to think or to say that, but it's just dirt at the end of the day.
Or maybe have dinner. Just stop everything for a moment and go have a meal.
Yeah.
And just say hello to each other.
Right.
Because when I see that, I'm like, but what would God and Jesus want? Not all of this,
Oy vey.
But I'm just if we keep it to simplicity, we're all supposed to just you said, it's our world. It's one planet. This is not what he would want. And this is actually horrible. I'm not even that religious, and I'm this is absolutely horrible. I don't know why people can't come to just a common ground. But
once governments get involved, it starts to get even darker.
Yeah.
Isn't church and religion?
Yeah.
I mean, what
separation?
It's supposed to
be different, but it's not.
What do you do when you are sworn in, to any office, right?
In our culture, it's the Bible.
Yeah.
God we trust.
When you get called to the stand, hand on the Bible. Yeah. What does it say on our legal currency?
Yeah. God we trust.
Trust.
There's definitely some gray zones in
right.
there.
Right.
Well, may you two have a great little journey. As all of us, we got to find our way as best we can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So do you have any takeaways, Dan?
No.
Nothing from this one. You don't want to put a little cherry on top.
Well, okay. If I just may say, make love, not war.
Oh, I like that.
I guess would be my.
Can I put a twist on that?
Yeah.
Can I just make lust instead?
Make lust. Yeah, absolutely. Bless you, my lust. Shay, what about you? You want to bring it home? Any final thoughts in your?
I just feel like we all should just love each other.
Yeah. That's what it's
no
about.
matter what religion, whether religious or spiritual, just love and respect each other. Wake up every day and try to be the best person you can. And if you don't feel like you did it that day, wake up tomorrow and try again.
Amen.
Yep.
And don't be judgmental.
Yeah. Try again, right? Try again. Fail once, fail again, fail better.
Get yourself up
Yeah.
and try again.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the great singer Leah said that. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe. You can follow us on Instagram at Anything But Cliche and hear us on Spotify, Apple Music, and OLAS Media.
Hot take alert. It's time for Unpopular Opinions, the part of the show where we say the quiet part loud and probably lose a few followers. Let's go.
Welcome back to another rendition of Unpopular Opinions here on Anything But Cliche. Today we're going to dive into homelessness and some potential solutions for it. First, we'll start with some statistics here. Roughly 190,000 homeless people in the state of California, which accounts for roughly 30% of the nation's total. Of those 190,000, roughly a third of them have addiction issues that led to their homelessness. And then as far as budget-wise, we have spending annually per homeless person of $47,000 in the state of California. So what I propose is a couple of things to address the issue. I don't know if there's solutions, but potentially. First of which would be changing the zoning for inhabited areas. For example, there will be no resources for the homeless in populated areas. So, for example, here in San Diego, Father Joe's Villages, for example, adios. You can no longer provide services in a populated area. Those services should be provided in an unpopulated area. For example, we would set up here in California, a central resource hub so that all the homeless can go to one place and get all of their resources, both from the private and public providers. So the state and county, they would all feed into this stuff and it would all be in one central location, as well as, Father Joe's Villages, for example, would move their resources to that central location. Now, if, homeless choose to sleep on the streets, that's perfectly fine. We're not going to criminalize people for doing that. But, they can't set up encampments. Wherever they choose to sleep for the night, they have to be gone, and there should be no sign of them having been there, in the morning. They shouldn't be able to, have bikes and carts and all this other nonsense that are just laden and overflowing with their gear. Whatever you can carry on your back, that's what you've got. If you got other stuff, it's going to be donated or what have you. Furthermore, if you're living in your car, again, perfectly fine, but it needs to be roadworthy. We don't want to see these, RVs and other vehicles, parked on the roadsides that are, just an eyesore. It's really ridiculous that this is allowed. And then as far as, handouts go, I think that should transition to, I guess a quid pro quo, right? This for that. It's not just a simple handout. There's no, just here you go, X number of dollars to go buy whatever it is you want to buy. Instead, I propose to set up essentially what I would consider an urban core kind of establishment where, there's day work every day. You show up at 9 a.m. or whatever the chosen time is. You put in your 8 hours and you get paid cash at the end of the shift that day. So, if you're going to be cleaning up trash, painting over graffiti, picking up after, the homeless people, all that kind of stuff, you get paid for doing so. And then the last suggestion would be that you would sort of have to be a naturalized, California citizen, so to speak, in order to get any resources from the state anyway. That would mean, you have to have been here for, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, at some number of years. And, would have had to pay into the system, pay taxes for a certain number of years before you would be able to, collect any benefits, kind of like a workers' comp insurance setup where you pay in so much, or I guess it's not workers' comp, but more like unemployment insurance, right? You pay in for a certain amount of time, then you can draw on that down the road. So yeah, that's my unpopular opinion about addressing some of our homeless issues here in the state of California. Thanks so much for listening. Let us know what you think about this unpopular opinion. Hit us up on Instagram. And of course, always like and subscribe. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to Anything But Cliche. Hit follow, smash that subscribe button, and maybe even send this to someone who really needs to hear it. For the spicy stuff we don't say on air, follow the show on Instagram at @anythingbutcliche. And for the full episodes, blog, and more, visit olismedia.com. Anything But Cliche is recorded in studios in San Diego, California, and proudly produced by Oles Media, an IBC media company.
Oles Media.